Srirangam. But he sent his disciples all over to establish the Divya Deshams, the holy places of Sri Vaishnavism. And he sent his disciples, his one disciple, Ananta Deva or Ananta Alvar, to Tirupati. And because of that, Tirupati developed into what it is today, because of Ananta Alvar and subsequent disciples of Lord Ramachandra. And Ramachandra himself visited Tirupati this is 1,000 years ago, and but he refused to go up on the hill because he said that it's so holy he didn't want to put his feet on the hill. But then his disciple, one of his gurus came and spoke to him and insisted, and he said that if you come up, then I will teach you the Ramayana. So Ramanuja listened. He went up on the hill, and for close to a year he stayed there studying the Ramayana under one of his gurus. So he's called Ramanuja. That means, he's follower of the Lord. Yeah. Huh? Yeah, he's a follower of the Lord. Yeah. So, I'm not going to spend a lot of time, but I'm going to say a few important things about him. So, Ramanuja was a prolific writer and amazing Vaishnava scholar. He lived to be over 100 years old, and his original body is in Samadhi on one side of Ranganath. It's preserved in some amazing way. It's his original body. You can see it today. Okay, so Prabhupada speaks a lot about Ramanujacharya, and he quotes a lot about him because he was very instrumental in decimating the Mayavad philosophies, especially as propounded by Sankaracharya in the Sarirak Bhasya, his commentary on Vedanta Sutra. And Ramanuja is credited with formulating the philosophy Vasistadvaita. Prabhupada explains, Vaishnava Mahatmas have explained the aphorism Sarvam Klavidam Brahma, that is, that the Lord is present everywhere in the creation. In this manner, the philosophical school known as Vasistadvaita propounds the idea that the Supreme Lord exists eternally in his two principal potencies, the Chit Shakti, or spiritual potency, and the Achit Shakti, or material potency. So Krishna says the same thing. Bhumirapo nalo vayu kammano buddhirevacha ahankara iti ame mina pakritirastata aparayamitastvanyam pakrite vidye me param jiva bhutam mahabahu yaryadam daryate jagat. So 7th chapter, 5th and 6th verses, he first explains Bhumirapo nalo vayu is the material energy, and then next he explains his spiritual energy. So this Chit and Achit and Chit Shaktis, the material potency, the spiritual potency. Though the Lord is one non-dual entity, he exists dynamically, manifesting his multifarious energies under the main headings of the Chit and Achit potencies, which he absolutely controls. Although he is the source of unlimited potencies, he eternally exists in his transcendental personal form. This form manifests in three aspects, namely, as he sees himself, as a loving devotee sees him, and as he is seen by his competitors and enemies. As he sees himself, as his loving devotees see him, and as he is seen by his competitors and enemies. The Sri Vaishnava disciplic succession headed by Sri Ramanujacharya cites the same text we have cited above to explain the situation of the Lord and his energies. So that verse, Ekadesa stitasya agner jyotsna vistariniyata parasya brahmana saktis tate damakilam jagat. A fire radiates light all around, although remaining in one spot. Similarly, the Supreme Brahman radiates energy everywhere, which is manifested as this material world. So, Ramanuja quotes the same verse, the fire radiates light all around, although remaining in one spot. Similarly, the Supreme Brahman radiates energy everywhere, which is manifested in this material world. Thus, the entire creation is proof of the existence of the Lord. One who is in complete knowledge understands that the Absolute Truth is the Supreme Personality Godhead, who exists eternally as the source and controller of all energies. The Mahatmas fully realize this knowledge, and having taken shelter of the Lord's transcendental energy, Chit Shakti, they eternally render loving devotional service to Him. Lord Krishna confirms this in Bhagavad Gita 9, 13, and 14. Mahatmanas tumam partha daivim bhaktim ashrita. These are not wise men. They are simply ordinary mortals who are offenders against the Lord. So you were here last night when we had that discussion, and I called out that gentleman, although he's a nice man, but he was speaking nonsensical Mayavad philosophy. Therefore, I challenged him and I called him out. And he was defeated by not arguing with me, but trying to argue against Krishna's own statements in the Bhagavad Gita. There's a difference between a person getting upset and voicing his opinion, and a person becoming, let's say, very patiently answering every question with Shastric evidence. If one person is expressing a fraudulent opinion about Krishna, and the other person is answering with his own opinion, it gets into a fight, and each one offends the other. But a person expressing a fraudulent opinion face to face to a person who answers every point based on Shastric evidence, that person is defeated, as you saw last night. So it's not a question of getting into an emotional fight. It's a question of, are you qualified to answer people's questions based on Shastra? That's why we're taking this course. If you're not qualified, then don't get into any discussions with people, because you'll just offend them. They have to realize that they're not really trying to argue against you. They're trying to argue against Krishna's own statements. See? So, when one is in a neophyte stage, they should not get in any arguments with anyone, because you will not argue based on Shastra. You'll just argue based on your own emotions, and you'll just offend people. But when you're an expert in Vedic knowledge, especially Bhagavad Gita, then you can answer all questions and all doubts, and you can also counter all fraudulent opinions with Shastric evidence. That's why that man finally accepted what we said last night, because he was not arguing against me, and I was not emotionally involved. I was simply answering every one of his questions by showing him what Krishna says about that. So that's why we have a course like this in Isopanisad. Isopanisad and Bhagavad Gita will give you all the answers so that you can educate others. But first you have to educate yourself. If you speak from opinion, you're committing the same mistake that the other person is committing, because your opinion is no better than the other person's opinion. If you do not have Shastric knowledge, you will just offend people, and they will offend you, and it will just be an argument. Okay. Whenever the word jnana appears in the Vedic literature, it should be understood to mean sambandha jnana, knowledge of the relationship between the Lord and his energies. So, there's jnana and vijnana. So jnana means understanding the difference between matter and spirit, or the body and the soul. That is called jnana. And vijnana means understanding that matter, the individual soul, and Paramatma, they all come from Krishna. Ete chamsa kalak pumsa Krishna stu Bhagavan Swayam. He's the origin. He's called Swayam Bhagavan. He's the origin of everything. Or as we quoted last night, that verse, 10th chapter, 8th verse, Aham sarvasya prabhava matak sarvam pavartate iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava saman vitaha. So that verse says that Krishna says, I am the origin of everything material and spiritual. Those persons who know this engage in my service eternally and basically come back to me. So, if you understand that Krishna is the origin of everything, now to understand that he's the origin of everything, you have to hear carefully the Bhagavad Gita, and you have to hear carefully Isopanisad, and you have to hear carefully the Srimad Bhagavatam. After hearing those three books, you'll be convinced Krishna is the origin of everything. All right? So, I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. Okay. So, this gentleman, we quoted that several times to this gentleman, because this is the definition of God. Janmadasya yata. Now let us inquire about the nature of the absolute truth. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Janmadasya yata. The absolute truth is that from which everything emanates. So then Bhagavad Gita says, I am the source of everything material and spiritual. Or as Ramanuja has said here, that the Lord manifests himself. He exists in two principal potencies, the Chit Shakti, or the spiritual potency, and the Achit Shakti, or the material potency. Though the Lord is one non-dual entity, he exists dynamically, manifesting his multifarious energies under the main headings of the Chit and Achit potencies, which he absolutely controls. Now, the main difference between Mayavad philosophy and Vaishnava philosophy is this. The Mayavadi say there's only one thing, one energy. It's called Brahman. There's no dual energies. There's no multiple energies. If there are multiple energies, that means that the Brahman unity is broken. So, they do not understand Achintya Beda Abeda Tattva, that the absolute truth is simultaneously and inconceivably one and different. This they cannot understand. So they simplify everything, and in the process they ruin the correct philosophical understanding by saying Kevala Advaita. The Lord, the ultimate state of God is absolute oneness with no variety, no multiplicity of potencies. There's just one thing. And anytime you see any diversity, like in this world there's so much diversity, there's microphones and there's carpets and there's floors and there's walls and there's lights and there's all different living entities. This is all Maya. It doesn't exist. It's just an illusion. So, as we said before, their concept of illusion and Vaishnava concept of illusion is different. Their concept of Tattvamasi and the Vaishnava concept of Tattvamasi is different. Their concept of Aham Brahmasmi and the Vaishnava concept of Aham Brahmasmi is different. We can go down the line. Almost every Sanskrit word or Mahavaikya, they have a different interpretation than the Vaishnavas. And in the process of, or like Sarvam Klavidam Brahma, that's another Mahavaikya, right? So every time they give a wrong interpretation of the Shastric evidence, it confuses people. And we saw that confusion last night. This man is saying, oh, God is everything. That means sometimes he's a person, sometimes he's not. That is complete nonsense. Why? Well, I gave him a simple example. I said, you are the father of your son, are you not? He said, yes. Is your son a person? Yes. Are you a person? Yes. Have you ever been a non-person at any time in your life? He said, no. I said, that makes my point. You're claiming that God is sometimes a person and sometimes not, but you yourself have always been a person. That means you're insulting God, that you are something that he is not. When he's not a person and you're still remaining a person, that makes you superior to him. But I said, in your own experience, you have never experienced being a non-person. So, and then I quoted the verse, Sarvayoni Sukonteya Sambhavan Murtaya Sambhavantiya Tasam Brahma Mahadyo Nirham Bija Pratapita. It's the 14th chapter, where Krishna says that he is the seed-giving father of all living entities. Everything emanates from him. So all the individuals that you see in this world, they are Mamaya Vamsa, Jiva Bhuta, Jiva Loka Sanatana, Manaksastan Indriyani, Pakristani Karsati. That they are the Mama Eva Amsa, and Sanatana. They're the eternal part and parcel. Part means they are the same quality as the Lord. Parcel means, but they are individual. And Krishna is individual. And both individualities of the Jiva and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are eternal, Sanatana. So here we have duality in oneness. Oneness in quality, duality in individuality. You see? That's so. Ramanujacharya is saying the same thing and almost quoting exactly the same Vedic verses to establish it. Just like a fire radiates heat and light. So although the heat and light are part of the fire, you cannot really separate them from the fire. But yet you can see them as distinct things included in the whole fire. So they're simultaneously one and different. And the fire expands its heat and light. So in the same way, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, expands his Paramatma expansion into every atom of the universe and into the heart of every living entity, and also his material energy, Bhumirapo Nalovaya, and also the individual jivas as living entities. So there is incredible duality and inconceivable oneness. Oneness in quality and difference in individuality of everything. It exists everywhere in the universe like that. So therefore, the entire creation is proof of the existence of the Lord, of God. One who is in complete knowledge understands that the Absolute Truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who exists eternally as the source and controller of all energies. The Mahatmas fully realize this knowledge and have taken shelter of the Lord's transcendental energy, Chit Shakti. They eternally render loving service, devotional service to Him. So in other words, when you engage in devotional service, as we do here, this is Krishna's Chit Shakti, his spiritual potency. You are entering into the spiritual world through devotional service. Therefore, many things happen when you do that. Number one, you enter into a direct relationship with the Lord. You offer Him food, He offers it back as prasad. Prasad is blessed by the Lord. If you take prasadam with respect, it purifies your existence. You offer Him prayers, but like for example, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, that Mahamantra is non-different than the Lord. So you're directly associating with Him by repeating the Lord's names. Whatever you offer to the Lord, Brahmarpana, Brahmahavir, Brahmahutam, Brahmagno, Brahmana Havir, Brahmaivatena Gantavya, Brahmakarma Samadhina. So, whatever you offer to the Lord, if the Lord accepts it, then everything becomes spiritualized. This is the, let's say, transcendental, existence of spiritual activity. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. So what happens is the following. The word Brahma or Brahman means spiritual. The Lord is Brahman, he's spiritual. And the rays of his transcendental body are called Brahma Jyoti, his spiritual effulgence. Everything that exists is situated in that Brahma Jyoti. But when the Jyoti, that spiritual light, is covered by illusion, Maya, or sense gratification, it is called material. This material veil can be removed at once by Krishna consciousness. Thus, the offering for the sake of Krishna consciousness, the consuming agent of such an offering or contribution, the process of consumption, the contributor, and the result are all combined together Brahman, or absolute truth. In other words, everything becomes re-spiritualized, everything becomes contaminated by our selfish desire to enjoy independent of God. As soon as we decide to use our body, mind, senses, everything in our life in the service of God, those material things suddenly retake their spiritual nature again. Therefore, this material veil can be removed at once by Krishna consciousness. Thus, the offering for the sake of Krishna consciousness, the consuming agent of such an offering or contribution, the process of consumption, the contributor, and the result are all combined together Brahman, or the absolute truth. The absolute truth covered by Maya is called matter. Matter, dovetailed for the cause of the absolute truth, regains its spiritual quality. Krishna consciousness is the process of converting the illusory consciousness into Brahman, or the supreme, or spiritual. When the mind is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, it is said to be in samadhi, or trance. Anything done in such transcendental consciousness is called yajna, or sacrifice for the absolute. In that condition of spiritual consciousness, the contributor, the contribution, the consumption, the performer, or the leader of the performance, and the result, or ultimate gain, everything becomes one in the absolute, the supreme Brahman. That is the method of Krishna consciousness. So, this Krishna consciousness movement is the process of converting the illusory material energy back into its spiritual nature, Brahman. Okay. So, therefore, Sankaracharya's presentation in the Sarirakbhasya and the entire Mayavad philosophy is false. It's based on false premises. And unless we can recognize that, we remain confused. Just like that man last night. He didn't even he couldn't even understand English properly. He didn't understand that personality used as a noun refers to the characteristics of a person. You see? So, not only he was confused about Sanskrit, he was confused about the English language. And he was trying to give his own imaginative definitions to English words. He didn't even understand English. Right? That's why I asked him, is English your first language? He had to admit it wasn't. It is his second language. But he's never learned his second language correctly. And that also indicates he probably doesn't know his first language correctly. Often people come to the United States, they don't even speak their own language correctly. Imagine how bad their English is. They never learned their own language correctly. You see. Now, compounded even more, his first language is not Sanskrit, and he can't even speak English correctly, and now he's trying to interpret Sanskrit on top of all that. So, what do people do in that dilemma? They make imaginative meanings. He's giving imaginative meanings to English words, and he's doing the same thing to the Sanskrit words. You think That's why I refer to the dictionary. The way to defeat Mayavad philosophy, impersonalist philosophy, is to use the dictionary meaning of words. What Sankaracharya did in order to establish his impersonalist Mayavad philosophy was not to use the direct meaning of words, but to use secondary, third, or fourth meaning of words. If you look in a real good dictionary, there's the first meaning, there's the second meaning, there's the third meaning, there's the fourth meaning. And sometimes they're opposite. When by the time you get to the fourth meaning of the word, it's something opposite than the first meaning. See, that's why English can be a very confusing language for people who are not born here and have not spoken it and learned it properly. It's confusing even for Americans who are born here if they haven't been properly educated. And they make mistakes all the time in speaking. Even people that are like 60, 70 years old, they make mistakes speaking their own language. Right? Okay, so now, yeah. No, we have examples of the Lord not accepting. When he went to Hastinapur to ask Duryodhana and the Kurus not to go and have war with the Pandavas, Duryodhana refused. But then he said, "Let's not talk politics. Come on, we have made a big feast for you." And Krishna said, "I won't eat your food," and he walked away. And he went to have something to eat from Vidura, right? So he's not obliged to accept our offering. Even the devotee, unless it's offered with love and devotion, he doesn't accept it. First of all, you have to have a tulsi leaf on every offering, right? Otherwise, he doesn't accept it again. He's not obliged to accept anything from us. He's only obliged by real love and devotion. You see? Like, for example, did he accept the second garland made by Goda Devi? No, he didn't accept it. He wanted the first one, the one that his father threw away. He said, "This is contaminated," and threw it away. So you see, there's another example. He doesn't accept every offering. He only accepts something that's offered with love and devotion. Therefore he says, "Patram pushpam phalam tuyam yome bhakta prayachati tadaham bhakti paratam asnami prayatat mana." Offer me with love and devotion a leaf, water, fruit, and flower, and I will accept it. So he doesn't say, "Offer me a leaf, water, fruit, and flower, and I'll accept it." He says, "Offer me with love and devotion." So what he's accepting, what he's looking for, is the love and devotion. It's not the leaf, water, fruit, and flower. He's got all the water in the world. He's got all the leaves in the world. He's got all the flowers in the world. He's got all the fruits in the world. He doesn't need your or my fruit, flower, water. What he's looking for is the love and devotion with which it's offered. So unless we understand that, there's no such thing as mechanical, perfunctory operations in devotional service. You cannot perfunctory means doing something mechanically, right? You mechanically doing arati or mechanically offering food. That doesn't mean Krishna accepts. Unless it's offered with love and devotion, he doesn't accept. Isn't it? So, therefore, Krishna consciousness is not some mechanical process. It's not an academic process. It's a process of dynamic love. But in order to love, you have to have a pure heart. In order to have a pure heart, you have to go through a process of purification. That process of purification is called sadhana bhakti, following the rules and regulations of devotional service as given by our acharyas. And you have to go through follow those rules and regulations under the scrutiny of a bona fide devotee. Then you have a good chance of making spiritual advancement. So therefore, Bahunam janmanamante jnanamam prapadyante vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. After many, many births and deaths, a person who is actually in knowledge of Krishna, surrenders unto the Lord, knowing him to be Vasudeva Sarvamiti. You are the cause of everything. Material and spiritual. Achit and chit, as Ramanuja says. Or, as Krishna says, para and apara prakriti. Yeah, apara. Apara. Yes. And Prabhupada says, after many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes, and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Sa mahatma sudurlabha. It's very rare. Manusyanam sahasresu kaschit jatati siddhai jatatam api siddhanam kaschit mam viti tattvataha. Out of many, many thousands of people, one may try for perfection in spiritual life. And out of thousands and millions of such perfected souls, only one will understand me in truth. So therefore, Krishna says to Arjuna, Tesam jnani nitya yukta eka bhakti visisyate priyo hi jnanino tyartam aham sacha mama priya. Of all people trying for understanding me, the one who is in full knowledge. What is full knowledge? Vasudeva Saramiti. Krishna, you are everything. What is full knowledge? You realize Krishna is the source of everything. Nothing is independent of Krishna. Nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam eko bahunam yo vidadati kamam. Krishna is the supreme eternal amongst all eternals, but he is the eternal that's supplying all the other eternals. So that makes him unique amongst the eternals. Say. So therefore, eka bhakti visisite priyo hi jnanino tyartam aham satcham mama priya. One who is in full knowledge and is always engaged in pure devotional service is the best of all the devotees. For I am very dear to him and he is dear to me. So Goda Devi or Andal became very dear to Ranganath because she was making the garlands with pure love. Even her father couldn't understand that. But when Ranganath refused to take the garland, that he first of all threw the first garland away that she made, because she saw her putting it around her neck and measuring it to see if it was the right size. He told her to throw it away and make another one. And she did it. But when he took that garland to offer to Ranganath, Ranganath spoke to him. He said, I don't want this garland. I don't want it. Take it away. I want that other garland. The one you threw away. You see? Because it was made with pure love. So, therefore, there's two things. One who is in full knowledge and who is engaged in pure devotional service is the best. It's Sudha Bhakta. Sudha Bhakti. Right. Okay. It doesn't. This slight little adjustment. So, just slight little adjustment. In essence, it's not different. In essence, it's not different. Lord Chaitanya added achintya. Right? Inconceivable and simultaneous oneness and difference. The same thing is in Christianity. The difference between the Roman Catholic Church and the Orthodox, Greek Eastern Orthodox Church. The Eastern Orthodox Church says during the liturgy, some mysterious thing happens that we don't understand, but we believe it happens. That this ordinary wine and bread is transformed into the blood and flesh of Jesus. The Catholic Church tries to give a rational explanation of it. And their number one rationalist was Thomas Aquinas. And he analyzed everything rationally. Right? The Greek Orthodox Church refuses to do that. They say there's certain things you cannot rationally understand. You just have to have faith. Okay. Now, here, when Lord Chaitanya adds the word achintya, that means there are some things that we're not capable of understanding, but still they're true. The simultaneous oneness and difference, because we can't do it, we have a hard time believing that it can be done by someone else. Right. And that was that man's problem last night also. That's the Mayavadi's problem. They can't imagine that Krishna remains a person eternally, and we are also eternal persons. We're qualitatively one, quantitatively different. We're connected, and we can seem to be unconnected. They don't understand that. They can't explain where the jivas came from. Therefore, they simplify it by saying it's all illusion. It doesn't really exist. When you get over this illusion, then you'll see there's only one thing, Brahman. But that's not what Isopanisad says. Hiranmayana patnena satyasya piyatam mukam tattvam pusama pavrinu satya dharmaya dristaya. So in the 15th mantra, he says, and Isopanisad, by the way, is a person. It's not a book. He's a person. And if you go to Vaikuntha, you'll see that Lord Narayana is surrounded by the Upanishads. They're all people. They're individual persons. Yes. They're all people. Everything is personal. There's nothing impersonal. Right? Yes. Yeah, well, devotion, the personality of devotion is called Bhakti Devi. Yeah. She's the expansion of Radharani. Everything is personal. The grass, each blade of grass is a person in the spiritual world. No. But wait a minute, let's say something else here. You are one jiva in the body, but every cell is also an individual jiva in your body right now. You understand? So, you're like a king of a country that has 1 billion people in it. How many cells you have in your body? Yeah. So, you're managing 1 billion jivas right now. Now, what happens if you mismanage? They revolt against you and you get cancer. No, I'm not kidding you. It's a fact. They revolt. They say, this is a crap leader. We revolt. We're going to kill this person because they're not treating us properly. Just like, there's revolution in countries, right? People revolt against the president or the king. Just like, Syria right now, there's a major revolution against Assad. So cancer is because people have not managed their kingdom properly. They haven't treated their people properly. So the people revolt. And they decide to destroy the king. But if you manage properly, then they cooperate with you. And when you're liberated, you take them back to Godhead with you. He does not go back to Godhead. Okay, I'll show you the verse in Bhagavad Gita. If you get liberated, you take that 1 billion people with you. Yeah. And if you don't get liberated, they get angry at you. Therefore, you have to take care of this body. Otherwise, they'll revolt and destroy you. Very big responsibility. Very big responsibility. You see, we're living in ignorance. We're living in a fool's paradise. We don't realize what responsibility we have as a human being. Okay, I'll have to come back to this point. Oh, I get it. Okay. 15:18. 15:18, Bhagavad Gita. The super soul enters into the Brahma Jyoti at the end of material creation. One second. It says, this is quoted from the Chandogya Upanishad. The super soul, coming out of the body, enters the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Then in his form he remains in his spiritual identity. That Supreme is called the Supreme Personality. This means that the Supreme Personality is exhibiting and diffusing his spiritual effulgence, which is the ultimate illumination. That Supreme Personality also has a localized aspect as Paramatma. By incarnating himself as the son of Satyavati and Parasara, he explains the Vedic knowledge as Vyasadeva. So it says, the super soul coming out of the body enters the impersonal Brahma Jyoti. Then in his form, he remains in his spiritual identity. Yeah, but what happens, there's an amalgamation of the Paramatma. He becomes one, whereas when there's a material creation, he's many. Yeah, because it's the same person. No, those people are liberated. They're different people, but Paramatma is one.
And that one Paramatma will be there.
Yeah. See, already the Garbhodaksha Vishnu is the source of all the Paramatmas, right? In Garbhodaksha Vishnu, all the Kshirodaksha Vishnus, which are the Paramatmas, right, go back into Garbhodaksha Vishnu. Garbhodaksha Vishnu goes back into Mahavishnu in a state of, let's say, sleep, right? A dormant stage. And then the next material creation against then expansion comes out. Garbhodaksha Vishnu, and then all the Kshirodaksha Vishnus. So everything is stored back into the body of Mahavishnu.
So Brahma Jyoti does have the Lord and his effulgence as well as the various jivas.
Even that effulgence is drawn back. Because the material creation stops. When it stops, it goes in the state of avyakta, and there's complete destruction, or dissolution. Dissolution is different than destruction. Destruction means something is broken. Dissolution means it's taken back into some primordial state, and that is back into the body of Mahavishnu. So all the jivas are still existing, Paramatma is existing, but they're all absorbed into the body of Mahavishnu. And there's no Brahmachoti manifest in the material world because you can't see it anymore. It's unmanifest. It's all reabsorbed. Well, you don't see it. Let's put it like that. When Brahma was born on the lotus flower, right? He was, at that point, he was a mental creation of Garbhodaksha Vishnu. So at that point, he goes into the stem of the lotus flower, which is where the universe is. He can't see anything. And he can't even come to the end of it. It was all darkness, and he became confused. So he comes back on to the world of the lotus flower, and he begins to meditate, to try and figure out what's going on. Yeah. Let's explain in the... So, in verse 22, it says, "The divine lotus which springs from the navel pit of Vishnu is in every way related to the spiritual tie with all souls and is the origin of four-faced Brahma versed in the four Vedas. On coming out of the lotus, Brahma, being guided by the divine potency, turned his mind to the act of creation under the impulse of previous impressions. But he could see nothing but darkness in every direction. He had an impulse for creation from previous, let's say, lifetimes. And here it says, all jivas get their nature conformably to their impressions of previous births, and accordingly their activity can have a beginning. It is called the unseen, or the result of one's previous deeds. His natural impulse is formed according to the nature of the deeds done by him in previous kalpa. Some of the eligible jivas also attain to the office of Brahma in this way. Then the goddess of learning, Saraswati, the divine consort of the Supreme Lord, said thus to Brahma, who saw nothing but gloom in all directions, O Brahma, this mantra, Klim Krishnaya Govindaya Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha, will assuredly fulfill your heart's desire. What was his heart's desire? He wanted to create. Well, I don't know if you say Radha, but... Well, let's not assume things. I'm not going to answer that question. So, the mantra consisting of the 18 divine letters, prefixed by the Kama Bij, is alone super excellent. It has a twofold aspect. One aspect is that it tends to make the pure soul run after all attractive Sri Krishna, the Lord of Gokula, and the divine milkmaids. This is the acme of the spiritual tendency of jivas. When the devotee is free from all sorts of mundane desires and willing to serve the Lord, he attains the fruition of his heart's desire, that is, love of Krishna. But in the case of the devotee who is not of unmixed aptitude, in other words, is still a mixed devotee, like Brahma, this super excellent mantra fulfills his heart's desire also. The transcendental Kama Bij is inherent in the divine logos located in Goloka, and the Kama Bij, pervertedly reflected in the worldly affairs, satisfies all sorts of desires of the mundane world. So when Brahma appears on the lotus, he doesn't see anything. It's all darkness.
But Genesis doesn't cover any Krishna, right? Just directly to God said, let there be light and there was light.
Why are you bringing Genesis in this? Well, Genesis is not factual. This is factual. Genesis is an allegorical presentation of what happened. So in a general term, Genesis is true. In a general term, God created everything. But if you want to know the mechanics, you have to read third canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, where it's much more in detail of how it actually happened. Okay. But my point here is that when Brahma is born, there's no, he doesn't see anything. It's all gloom and dark. The world hasn't expanded yet. Okay, so, but the expansion begins by Brahma's desire to create and his engagement in devotional service by repeating the Kama Bij Gayatri. Om Klim Govindaya Gopijana Vallabhaya Swaha. Yeah. Okay. So, therefore, it is concluded that Sankaracharya, in order to present the Supreme Lord, the living entities and the material nature, as indivisible and ignorant, tries to cover the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He maintains that the material cosmic manifestation is mithya, or false. But this is a great blunder. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead is a fact, how can his creation be false? Even in ordinary dealings, one cannot think the material cosmic manifestation to be false. Therefore, Vaishnava philosophers say that the cosmic creation is not false, but temporary. It is separated from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but since it is wonderfully created by the energy of the Lord, to say that it is false is blasphemous. Non-devotees factually appreciate the wonderful creation of material nature, but they cannot appreciate the intelligence and energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead who is behind this material creation. Sripad Ramanujacharya, however, refers to a sutra from the Aitareya Upanishad, 111, Atmava idam agra asit, which points out that the Supreme Atma, the Absolute Truth, existed before the creation. One may argue, if the Supreme Personality of Godhead is completely spiritual, how is it possible for him to be the origin of creation and have within him both material and spiritual energies? To answer this challenge, Sripad Ramanujacharya quotes a mantra from the Taittiriya Upanishad that states, Yatova imani bhutani jayante, yena jatani jivanti, yet prayanti abhisamvishanti. This mantra confirms that the entire cosmic manifestation emanates from the Absolute Truth, rests upon the Absolute Truth, and after annihilation, again re-enters the body of the Absolute Truth. You see? There's a reabsorption of everything. No, because people, look, to enter the material world, fall down from the spiritual and enter the material world, there has to be a fog in your brain. You have to there's got to be a cloud that, just like if you have a cataract, it doesn't mean you're blind. It just means your vision is blocked by some hard film in your eye. So you had a cataract operation, they break that film and they dissolve it somehow, or they break it. Then you can see again, because you're not really blind when you have a cataract. Your vision is blocked. So this cloud, in order to come into the material world, you have to pass through this cloud that blurs your vision of things. And instead of seeing everything as belonging to Krishna, you begin to see everything as belonging to yourself. And you develop this misconception of life. And that begins material life. That cloud that enters into the mind and doesn't let you see reality as it is. So we don't really see things. Just like when you look at the ocean through the window of an airplane, how much of the ocean do you see? You don't see anything. What? But you don't see anything. You don't see anything. You just, you look down there, Do you see the whales? Do you see the fish? Do you see the, algae? Do you see... No, you don't see anything. So that means we have clouded vision. If you look at me, or I look at you, how much of me do you see? Huh? You don't see anything. You don't even see 1% of me. You don't see my heart. You don't see my intestines. You don't see my liver. You don't see my gallbladder. You don't see the pituitary gland. You don't see my brain. You don't see this. You don't see that. You don't see anything. You see a little bit of the face. That's it. And a hand. That's it. That's all you see. Right? So we don't realize how little we actually see. Because we're clouded. But do you see them?
No, I haven't seen them.
All right, so you have to just accept what Shastra says. But even if you saw the Brahmajyoti, it would blind you. Just like this mantra 15 says, "O my Lord, sustainer of all that lives, your real face is covered by your dazzling effulgence. Kindly remove that covering and exhibit yourself to your pure devotees." So there's two coverings. One is covering Krishna, and the other covering is covering us. The cloud, the fog in our brain is clouding us. So first you have to get rid of the cloud in the brain, right? The fog in the brain. And then you have to beg Krishna to remove his dazzling effulgence, this Brahmajyoti, because that's also blinding. You see? It doesn't just happen automatically. See, people think they know something about God. They don't know peanuts about God. They have no understanding at all. They have no understanding of the material world. They don't even understand their own body. You see? So therefore, what do they understand? Nothing. Absolutely not. Zero. But yet they claim to be big professors. So, this mantra confirms that the entire cosmic manifestation emanates from the Absolute Truth, rests upon the Absolute Truth, and after annihilation again re-enters the body of the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. See, the major contribution of Ramanujacharya was several things. When he met his guru had already died, right? Yamunacharya. But his guru's hand was like this, right? So no one understood why, but Ramanujacharya understood why. And he said, Yamunacharya wants three things to be done. He wants me to encourage the devotees. He wants me to write commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. And he wants me to spread this movement and make many more devotees. Every time he said one point, even though Yamunacharya was dead, a finger opened. And then the second finger, the third finger opened. You see? So, here Ramanujacharya is writing, he's defeating Sankaracharya's Sarirakbhasya. I mean, magnificently. He's destroying it, right? So he quotes this verse from the Taittiriya Upanishad. So, the mantra confirms that the entire cosmic manifestation emanates from the Absolute Truth, rests upon the Absolute Truth, and after annihilation again re-enters the body of the Absolute Truth. So, rests upon the Absolute Truth means Krishna's Brahmajyoti penetrates everything in the universe. It begins in the spiritual world, from the effulgence from the body of Krishna, and it emanates everything. It completely it underlies everything in the spiritual world and the material world. And when the material world is going to dissolve, he reabsorbs that Brahmajyoti, that energy. So it says the living entity is originally spiritual, and when he enters the spiritual world or the body of the Supreme Lord, he still retains his identity as an individual soul. In this connection, Sripad Ramanujacharya gives the example that when a green bird enters a green tree, it does not become one with the tree. It retains its identity as a bird, although it appears to merge with the greenness of the tree. Therefore, when you see the Brahmajyoti, you don't really understand that it's made up of billions of living entities. It's like the green bird entering into the forest and landing on the branch of a green tree. You don't see the greenness of that individual bird anymore. It blends in with the greenness of the tree. But because it blends in, according to your vision, it doesn't mean the bird doesn't exist anymore. The bird's still there. You see? Our problem is we have limited vision. Just like you look out the window of the airplane and you think you see the Pacific Ocean, but you don't see anything of the Pacific Ocean. You don't even see 1%. You might see 1 billionth or 1 trillionth percent of the Pacific Ocean, and then you think, oh, I saw the ocean. You didn't see anything. Say,
See the color.
it's not even the right color. You know, it's just a reflection of light. So, therefore, Ramanujacharya gives the example that when a green bird enters a green tree, it does not become one with the tree. It retains its identity as a bird, although it appears to merge into the greenness of the tree. To give another example, an animal that enters a forest keeps its individuality, although apparently the beast merges with the forest. Similarly, in material existence, both the material energy and the living entities of the marginal potency maintain their individuality. Thus, although the energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead interact with the cosmic manifestation, each keeps its separate individual existence. Merging with the material or spiritual energies, therefore, does not involve loss of individuality. According to Sri Ramanujapada's theory of Visishta Advaita, although all the energies of the Lord are one, each keeps its individuality. Vishistva. Okay, that's what Visistya means. Although all the energies of the Lord are one, each keeps its individuality. So that's called Visishta Advaita. Individuality in oneness. And now you have two examples. I'll give you another example. You go whale watching, right, on the Pacific Sound, right? So all of a sudden, the captain of the ship said, "There's one over there," and everyone turns their binoculars over there, you know, and they see, oh yeah, the whale comes up. You know, first of all, they see the steam on the water blowing up from the whale, you know, because the whale is an animal. He's not a fish. As the dolphin also is an animal. It's not a fish. And then all of a sudden, he jumps out of the water, and so everyone's, whoa, look how big it is, you know. And then he goes back into the water, and then they don't see him anymore. Now, when he goes back into the water, did the whale stop existing? No, but you can't see it. It emerges back into the water. So, when the Mayavadis talk about merging into Brahman, they think that you lose individuality, but you don't. Just like the bird that merges into the green tree, the green bird merges into the green tree, but it hasn't lost its individuality. So now you understand. See, now we could have spoken about Ramanuja, this thing happened, that thing happened in his life, but this is more important. He's known, this is what Yamunacharya asked him to do. That's to write a commentary on the Vedanta Sutra and basically to defeat the Sarirak Bhasya commentary of Sankaracharya. And he did it. Prabhupada said Ramanujacharya was the most successful of all the Sri Vaishnava acharyas. In everything he did. He did those three things, right? Not just one thing. He did three things.
What were they? The first was writing a commentary. What were the other two?
No, the first thing was to inspire the devotees that were already there, because they were very discouraged because Yamunacharya passed away. They thought, this is the end, right? Such a great acharya, who's going to replace him? So he replaced him, and he encouraged all the devotees. And then secondly, he wrote a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. And the third, he spread the movement. He spread Sri Vaishnavism all over India, actually. He always traveled with 1,700 brahmacharis and 300 women who were like brahmacharinis, wherever he went. It's unheard of at that time. He's traveling always with 1,000 people from one village to another. Okay, so we'll stop right there and continue tomorrow. See, there's a connection between Ramanuja and Isopanisad, right? Because it's all the same philosophy. There's no difference. But to see how Ramanuja defeated Sankaracharya's Sarirakbhasya is very instructive. So basically, he quotes the verse, Ekadesa stitasya agner. Just like a fire, there's heat and light, and it's diffused everywhere. Right? But the fire stays in one place. In the same way, the Lord diffuses his multi-energies. But they're in two categories, chit and achit, or para and apara prakriti, right? But the Lord's individuality is not lost. Om Purnam Ada Purnamidam. And the individuality of the living entities is not lost. They're eternal, sanatana. Mamayavam sa jiva bhuta. Jiva loka sanatana, right? So this the Mayavadis don't understand. They say Kevala Advaita, there's only one thing, it's Brahman. So they say Brahma Satyam Jagat Mitya. Only Brahman is truth, and Jagat, this whole material creation, is false. And that's false. Yeah, if Brahman is the truth, if Krishna is the truth, how can something that emanates from him be false? It may be temporary. In other words, not the material energy is temporary. Material energy is eternal. But the forms that are produced by combination of material energy, they are temporary. But they're still existing temporarily. So you cannot ignore them. But you can engage them in Krishna's service, and when you do that, you remove the veil of Maya from those things. The same thing used for sense gratification becomes veiled. Your mind becomes veiled, and the object that you're playing with becomes veiled. Removed sense gratification, its spiritual potency becomes revealed, and your mind becomes purified. And you begin to see correctly. This is Vaishnava philosophy. Haribol.